Hello everyone, welcome to another video on English.youtube where we bring you podcasts to practice your listening and learn some vocabulary. In today's episode, we're going to listen to a great podcast. It's called How to Be a Better Human. And in this episode, they talk about picking a habit, following it through, and how it's fine to fall off course, which means how it's fine to sometimes stop doing that and you don't need to berate yourself. Berate yourself. This is a great word that you will learn today. So go ahead and listen to the podcast and then we can practice some of the vocabulary that you hear.
Strange thing that happens when people pick a habit to follow. In this case, I'm using exercise as an example, but it can be anything. You start to do the habit and maybe you stick with it for a month or 3 months or some period of time where you're kind of energized about it and you do a good job with it. And then something happens and you fall off course. And I've noticed that there's a certain group of people that the narrative in their mind at that point is, oh, well, of course I fell off track. I always fail with exercise habits. Or, oh, like I knew I wasn't going to be able to stick with it. Why did I think it was going to be different this time? And I don't think it has to be like that at all. Like we don't need to turn it into this bigger thing where we're assigning our self-worth to this or whatever. And I also think that it's a little bit strange that we do this to ourselves. Nobody says this explicitly. But the assumption when you pick a habit to build is kind of like, well, what it would be to be successful with this is if I just did it forever for the rest of my life. But
Yeah.
but that obviously that doesn't make sense because you go through many different stages of life. Habits need to change shape. So these check-ins, these reflections and review, it's a chance to notice like when something falls off course and isn't working, and maybe the habit needs to change shape, and that's totally fine. You don't need to like berate yourself for it.
All right, I hope you enjoyed it. You can later look at the transcript of the podcast and its Persian translation if you speak Persian. So let's talk about the words. The first word is pick a habit, and it's kind of straightforward. It means to start a new habit. So you pick a habit to follow. And in a somewhat different sense, we can say to pick up a habit, which is kind of different. It means to catch something, like you do it unintentionally. I was taught to drive by my boyfriend, and I'm afraid I've picked up, which means I have caught some of his bad habits unintentionally.
People pick a habit to follow.
The next word is to stick with something, which means to continue doing something or using someone to do work for you and not stop or change to something or someone else. Like, he's a good car mechanic. I think we should stick with him. Or when you pick a habit, you stick with it. You continue doing it. You don't fall off course, which is the next expression.
Maybe you stick with it for a month or
Fall off course means to deviate or stray from a planned path or intended direction. Like, for example, you say that I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to stick with it, but then you fall off course, which means that you stop doing that. It is often used metaphorically to describe situations where someone or something is no longer following the original plan or objective. Example, he fell off course in his studies after facing personal challenges, which means that he stopped studying or he didn't stick with it because of personal challenges.
and you fall off course.
Assigning your self-worth to something means basing our sense of value or self-esteem on external factors or specific achievements. It means that if I'm successful, then I value myself, then I'm a great person. And if I fail, then I lose my self-esteem. I don't respect myself anymore. It reflects the idea that our feeling of self-worth depends on how well we perform in a certain area or how others perceive us.
Or we're assigning our self-worth to this or whatever.
The last word is berate, which means to criticize or speak in an angry manner to someone. His mother berated him for making a mess. He made a mess and his mother criticized him, got angry at him. So to berate yourself means you are angry at yourself.
You need to like berate yourself for it.
All right, thank you for watching this video, and remember, if you have picked the habit of studying English and you fail to stick with it, it's totally fine. Don't assign your self-worth to it and don't berate yourself for falling off course.